Find your bio here. Hello, welcome.
Hello, welcome.
Hello.
Hello, Carla. Hi, Joanna. Johanna. Coming to you live from Minneapolis. Virtually from Minneapolis.
We're going to give people a couple minutes to join. We have a few more folks registered. So you're welcome to chit chat while we're waiting or.
Okay.
Oh boy, chit chatting.
And I'm keeping my eye on the waiting room so I can admit people as they show up.
Okay. I always like to know where people are coming from. Like it's fun just to hear how far we're reaching, you know, different audiences.
Yeah, and once we officially start, we can do a quick round of introductions too.
Okay. Okay, yeah. That sounds good.
Because I like to hear that too.
So it's like the most gorgeous day here, except for sometimes it's not gorgeous and it rains, but all the leaves are golden coins. I'm like, you know, they're like real gold. Yeah, just go out and get some. They're just
that sounds nice. Hi, Carla.
Yeah, we just had a major downpour, but now the sun is out, and so it's especially pretty.
Very transitional weather. I've been needing to go outside and do some cutting on some plywood, and it's like, no, I don't want to be holding a power saw when it starts to rain. So I'll wait, maybe tomorrow.
Right.
Good example of, yes, like modifying your schedule, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Should I go ahead and pin myself too, or how? Or do we just want to have it, whoever talks, be on the
for
on
the video?
spotlight? Yes.
Yeah. It's nice if it shows in the video the person who's speaking. So, do you have that option now that you're recording?
Yeah,
okay.
I have lots of options. I'm surprised because I'm not the host. Okay, there I am.
Yeah. Or sorry, Dominic's the one recording.
I am. I have it on speaker view right now.
Okay.
Let me see if I can figure out how to pin. Okay, there, now you're pinned.
Hi, Ben. Hi, Angie.
Hi, Ben.
Hello.
Hi, welcome. All right, well, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Does that sound good, Jodi?
Yes, that sounds good. I'm ready.
All right, I'll give a quick little welcome. So hi everyone, my name is Michelle Anderson. I use the pronouns she, hers. I'm the Rural Program Director at Springboard for the Arts here in Fergus Falls. And it's great to see you all tonight, and we're really excited to have Jodi Reeb here as, you know, our pandemic artist residency for our meet and greet tonight. And what I've found about the meet and greets during this pandemic is that while we really miss being able to gather in person and share food and wine and you know, kind of mingle, the nice thing about it is that we get to have people join from all over the place. So the last artist that we had, Sue Smith-Greer, had family members join from Atlanta and a few other places all across the country. So it's kind of connecting us even more to people than just the one artist that is participating in the program. For those of you who don't know, Springboard for the Arts is a community and economic development organization for artists, and we are based both in St. Paul and Fergus Falls. We do a lot of other programs outside of the Hinge Arts Residency. So if you are an artist or you know artists, we have some great resources on business skills workshops and career consultations, and we do a lot of other community development partnerships across the state of Minnesota, and we have some national programs as well. So if you haven't checked us out, I encourage you to visit our website, which we can put in the chat for you. So we're here to welcome Jodi Reeb to the Hinge Arts program. In normal times, like I said, we would be gathering at our office in downtown Fergus Falls, and then Jodi would be working on projects while living at the Kirkbride building grounds in Fergus Falls, which is a former state hospital. The Hinge Arts program has existed now for a little over 5 years. So we've had artists come from all over the country, a total of about 104, 105 by now. So we have a huge alumni roster from the last 5 years, and it's been an incredible way to kind of just meet artists of all types from across the country, but also show what we love about Fergus Falls and Otter Tail County. So I think before we have the main focus of tonight is to hear from Jodi about her plans for her residency, a little bit about her artistic background. And I think I also see all of us as kind of here to cheer her on and help her get off to a great start. But before we do that, I would love if we could do a quick round of introductions of everybody that has joined us tonight. So if you could just say your name, pronouns, where you're joining from, and if you, I know several of you know Jodi, so if you want to share how you know Jodi, that would be great too. So let's start with Dominic. He's the other Springboard staff here, so I want to make sure he introduces himself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dominic Falcio. I am the Rural Program Coordinator here at Springboard for the Arts in Fergus Falls. I use he, him, they, them pronouns, and I know Jodi through Hinge Arts.
Great, thanks, Dominic. Carla?
Hi, I'm Carla Benjamin. She, hers, they, them, whatever. Just don't call me late for dinner. I know Jodi. I've taken a few classes from her, and presently she is art coaching me. And my career is, like picking up speed to take off once. So I'm trying to build a body of work, and I'm in Pillager, Minnesota, which is west of Brainerd, so center of the state. And I've been spending this week building some really large workbenches because I want to work large and I don't have any space. So I'm being a carpenter this week. So, great to be here. Congratulations, Jodi.
Thanks, Carla.
Thanks, Carla. Angela?
Hi, I'm Angela Forrest. I use she, her pronouns. I'm actually outside of Washington, D.C. in Maryland. I know Jodi from way, way back. Let's just say I know her from our formative years in North Dakota. And so I've been able to see her evolve as an artist, and it's been really great. And so I'm really happy to be here.
And you're a collector now.
Yes, I am. And I own some of Jodi's work, which is really exciting.
Yes, hi, Ange. Thanks for being here.
Oh, having trouble with my unmutes. And Ben?
Hi, I'm Ben, and I've known Jodi now for a couple of years. I go by he, him, and Jodi's my significant other, so that's how I know Jodi. And I'm really excited I know she's super excited for the Hinge residency, and so yeah, congratulations, Jodi.
Thanks, thank you. And you're also my teacher. You could just, you've helped me learn some new ways of taking photographs, so you can also take credit for that.
Thank you.
Wow. All right, and then Johanna.
Hi, I'm Johanna. My pronouns are they, them. I'm in Fergus Falls. I'm a reporter for the Fergus Falls Daily Journal. So I am here to write about Jodi for the local paper.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you for joining us. That's really fun.
Great. So Johanna, do you want to take it away and share a little more about who you are as an artist, and then what you plan to work on during your residency time? And then we can save as much time afterwards for just informal conversation and questions.
I think you mean Jodi, by the way.
What did I say?
You said Johanna.
Oh, yeah. No, sorry.
Yeah.
J word, I totally get it.
You're both in the right above each other, so
Yeah,
sorry about that.
funny. So, well, I'm very happy to be a part of this program, and it's my first residency, and so it's virtual. So I think that's kind of unique on both fronts. So I'm going to be taking some photographs in the area. I'm going to just be touring the area. So I take photographs mostly of pollinator-friendly plants, but then also using film. I have a vintage Nikon camera, and I've been doing, Ben taught me how to do this, but I've learned how to do the double exposure so that when I take a photograph, I don't advance the film. I take another photograph layering on top of it. So I guess for Photoshop artists who are very fluent with that, they would just maybe take 2 separate photographs and layer those images. But I love that serendipity that happens with film, and it's almost like a surprise when you get the film developed to see what you've taken. And so it's really about intuition. It's just kind of like being in the moment and choosing which photographs get layered over which photographs. So I'm planning in the Fergus Falls area to take photographs of the prairie wetlands. Michelle and I were just talking about where I should go before everyone joined us. And then also the Maple Lake. I'm gonna look at my notes. Maplewood area, and I'm gonna just kind of see what I see and respond to the area, but really site specific to the area. And then I'm hoping to have a show at the gallery, at the Cadets Gallery, which is in downtown Fergus Falls. So that was kind of like a separate little thing, but just really just spending the week just driving around and just getting familiar with the area and documenting what I see. So that is my plan right now.
Awesome. Do you have, I guess, we can just ask informal questions if that
Sure.
sounds good for folks. I guess, can you tell us more about what inspires you about the prairie and pollinator plants? And is that like a long time interest of yours? Is it more new right now?
You know, I joke that I favor myself a little mini scientist. I've always just really been interested in science. And so ecology, pollinator friendly plants, and I work with encaustic paint, which is consisting 85% of beeswax and varnish and pigment. And so about 2 years ago, I received the Minnesota State Arts Board grant, the Artist Initiative grant. And that was part of the research that I outlined during that grant time to take photographs of pollinators, plants that, and most of them are, but just that idea that just really to kind of delve into that and what does that look like and what kind of struggles are the bees having, which are, you know, due to pesticides and lack of habitat, and also just the hives are not thriving right now. So there's a lot of reasons that may be. And so I just wanted to do some research around that, and then also raise awareness about the cause and just really educate people, because there's all these things that we can do ourselves just by even having a little plate of water with rocks in a dish in our yard, or not raking our leaves, or having some ground that's uncovered so that the bees can burrow into the ground. So with native bees especially, they are solitary dwellers, meaning they are not hive dwellers. So it's really hard to substantiate how much of a challenge they're having because they're all by themselves. Whereas a honeybee colony or a hive you can see because they're just all right there in their house, so to speak. And anyway, so I just became really fascinated about that because the native bee population is really struggling, especially just because we can't, you know, tell what's happening with them as easily. So that kind of started that. And then with that research, I love flowers, of course, but I wanted to kind of find my voice with the camera and how would I show that and create awareness around that. So I really take very simple black and white photographs of flowers and plants and blow them up. So a lot of times the plants can be 2 inches tall, 3 inches tall, and I really will make them, you know, to like a 36 by 48 inch painting. And then the beeswax paint that I'm using is sort of collaborating in a way with the photograph. And I like that the materials are a full circle with what I'm trying to talk about, raise awareness about, and the materials are actually come from bees. So that's kind of a little bit how that came together. And you know, with the grant, you get this opportunity to just really do something completely new. And my work has always been nature-based, but this grant really allowed me to work with photographs since I am a full-time artist, and just take some time off and just really explore this idea. So I would say right now those photographs are more representational, and I guess we could put my website maybe on for people to take a little look about that. And under the heading, if you go to artwork, and then if you go to photo collage paintings is what I'm calling them. So So yeah, so it just has been a really fun journey, and I called it has legs. I mean, I've just been kind of working with that, and really that's what inspired me to apply for the Kirkbride Hinge residency, to take photographs in the area, based in an area. I'd like to, raise awareness within a specific region, and research the bees and the foliage and everything like that. And maybe take a different landscape. So I know there's a lot of wetlands, and I would like to try my hand at taking some photographs and layering images as double exposures of the wetlands. I love water too, so it just it seems like a natural progression to just use other kind of natural subject matters in my work. So did I go on too long?
Oh, no. No, and you're coming to the right place. I mean, for those that aren't familiar with Fergus Falls, we're kind of at the intersection of like the prairie and lakes country, and so it's really where those two things meet. But here, just on the edge of town, is this place called Prairie Wetlands Learning Center, and it's a U.S. Fish and Wildlife funded interpretive center with trails all through the prairie. And my favorite thing about it is that the 4th and 5th graders in Fergus Falls Public Schools get the option to spend their 4th or 5th grade on the prairie. So they actually go to school there. They do their math lessons using, doing things like measuring roots, or they have cute little weather journals, so every morning they write in their weather journal, and every subject is integrated into prairie science and prairie learning. They're even out there in February when it's 20 below zero, so they learn just really incredible skills and just how to be good stewards of the Minnesota prairie as well. So
that's incredible.
It's a really special place, and just this region in general is just full of wetlands as well. So I think we actually have more. My husband is really good at this statistic because he works as the aquatic invasive species specialist for the county, but we have more like shoreline than California does, because we have so many lakes. So more miles of shoreline, so because there's so many lakes and ponds and rivers. So yeah,
amazing. That's amazing. So I'm very excited about that, because I really am just going to come in during this time and see what I see. And like you said, there's might be some fall colors, and which of course are just a perfect timing to just get some of those different seasonal references. Especially, I tend to always kind of take photographs in the summer, but this is going to be really nice. And even if the leaves fall off, it's going to be a beautiful silhouette of a tree, or I would just kind of just really take advantage of what's there right now.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, people can feel free to use the chat to ask questions as well.
Ask away, right?
So you mentioned that you received a grant from MSAB. I'm wondering, how did you begin this work? Like, how did you get inspired to start doing what you're doing?
I think it was from 2-3 summers ago. I just went to my farmer's market, and one of the growers there was just telling me about challenges that they have as they were just being honey producers. And we just struck up this conversation, and it was really, and of course in the news I hear about all the struggles that bees are having, but just having talked to someone who had hives, and just this sort of bafflement in what's going on, or, because it's so many different things that could be affecting your certain hive. So it kind of just touched my heart, honestly, and I wanted to learn more. And my work has always been nature-based, so that was a natural idea to expand on that. And then just having a subject matter that I could really get sink my teeth into and research, and then, paint something that's sort of inspired from my research, and then use that to educate. Because I'm also a teacher. I teach encaustic workshops out of my studio and nationally. So it's always a natural component for me to learn something and then want to figure out how to share it. And the Minnesota State Arts Board really allowed me to do that, because it is kind of a community grant in the way that you do your research, you do your learning. And then, the last part of it is, how do you share that? And I've done free workshops with printmaking, doing encaustic workshops for printmaking too. So, and ended up having an exhibition. So that was really where I was able to showcase all the pieces that I made. And so it market. And I love that when you just can really, you know, just get to know somebody just kind of randomly, and it just makes like such a difference. So that's what started it.
Wonderful, thank you.
Oh yeah, so I saw a question from Johanna. She's asking, can you all see that? Can you tell us about your artistic background and how you got into art and that journey? So yes, I actually love to tell this story because I knew I wanted to be an artist since I was 5. And I grew up in Bismarck, North Dakota, so the area of Fergus Falls. My family lives in Fargo still, so kind of, you know, I'm kind of always driving by there on a regular basis to visit my family. And my best friend at the time, she had this big newsprint paper from her mom. Her mom was a school teacher, and it was the kind with the big blue lines on it when you're learning your letters. So it was like this kind of newsprint paper, not really great quality, but it was big. It was like 24 inches by 36 inches, and it was the first time I'd ever drawn on this large paper. And so I just had crayons, but I was that kid that always, you know, you'd ask the neighborhood kids, what should we do? Should we go play ball, or what should we do? And I always just wanted to draw in the house. So we'd always have to negotiate that. And anyway, so I made these drawings, and then I decided to roll them up and pull them in my wagon in my neighborhood. And I was selling them for $1. And it was just so funny because some people, I got $2 total. So I even went door to door. I was a door-to-door salesman at 5. Of course, this is different times, right? Totally safe and fine. But so I sold 2 drawings, and then one person just gave me $1 as a donation. But at the moment I thought, I can do this. Like, this is totally valid. I can totally sell my art. And so it just really never left me as an idea that I wanted to really do that. And then, so I just kind of kept working on my work. And in high school, my mom ended up getting sick with breast cancer. And so that was another thing that really struck me, was the art in the clinics were not really well thought of. It was almost like an afterthought to spend all this time in these clinics and just be staring at these walls with this artwork that really didn't make sense for the room, or it seemed like it was donated or an afterthought. And so in that moment too, it became like something of you know, a heartfelt idea in my mind that I wanted to make art that I felt was either healing or would be really nice to look at in a healthcare setting. So for many years after that, I went to the Minneapolis College of Art and Design, and I studied painting and printmaking, but with the sort of bigger goal that I wanted to place my work into healthcare settings. So those are the 2 things that kind of really had me work hard and just really be disciplined. And getting a studio, of course, there's nothing like that, because all of a sudden you have a place to work. And that really is when I began focusing on my work and in my career. And so I've been a full-time artist now for about 24 years. And I work a lot with corporate, residential. So the dream come true is I do have a lot of work in healthcare settings now. So it's kind of come full circle. And it's really nice when friends they'll just happen upon my work in a clinic or something like that, and they'll usually reach out to me, and they just say things like, you know, I saw your artwork and I knew everything was going to be okay, or, you know, it just really touches me to know that people are connecting with my work in that setting. So that's kind of a little bit about my journey in terms of that. So, and I make paintings primarily, but I'm also been venturing now into more dimensional wall sculpture. All right, and so Carla's got a question. She says, when you take double exposures, how do you remember where the first image is situated on the frame before taking the next second shot? Wow, that is such a great question, because I don't. I just take a photograph and I'll frame it, but I'll usually, when I take the first photograph, I have in mind what the second photograph will be. And it also matters the layering. So if you take a photograph of, say, like a grove of trees, and then sometimes I'll just turn to the left and just take a photograph of if there's a river or lake or something like that, and they will superimpose over each other. But if you reverse the order, then the colors and the saturation of the light and the dark are also different. So sometimes I'll even take a photo, you know, like reverse layer them just to see which one I respond to the most, almost like a bracketing technique, but just, you know, layering the images. And I can even do, I don't know, Ben can probably answer this more, but I I've done as many as 3 to 5 image layers, and those get really abstract and interesting when you are, you know, layering all these different compositions over each other. It gets very, you can usually tell what the last thing is that you took a picture of. So. Okay, Johanna's got a question. Is this okay if I just keep doing this? I'll just keep reading questions.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, okay. So, do you develop and print my own film and photos? And I have. When I went to my undergraduate degree was at Normandale. I started for a few years there. And I was really fortunate to be able to do my own darkroom photos at that time, but recently I have not. And in fact, it's just changed so much with developing photographs. I think there's only 1 or 2 places in Minneapolis now that will develop your film. And then I will have those negatives scanned so then I can use them to print them out on tissue paper is how I do it now. So I'll use the image printed on tissue paper and embed that in the beeswax. So I'd love to, though. I used to love doing that. I love all the parts of photography too. As a painter, I kind of feel like I have many selves, and it could be a sculptor, a painter, and a photographer. So kind of blending all those things together.
I'm just putting in the chat the examples of the encaustic over the film,
yeah.
So people know there, because I just find I was trying to find them because I knew I'd seen them before, and now I'm just like staring into them, soaking these images in because they're so beautiful. Sorry.
Oh, thank you. So, yeah, so I'm going to do something very similar to that, but I will probably work with color too, since the fall colors are there. I just can't ignore that, and leaves and trees and landscapes have been a subject matter that go in and out of my work over the years. So I kind of describe it that my work is on this big pendulum, and sometimes it's more representational and then it goes over here to more abstract, but I'm sort of working the same umbrella for the whole time, and just how I develop and show the work in that kind of in a series too. I'll work in series. So Angie has a question, and she says, how have you adapted to creating, sharing, and selling my work with the advent of COVID? And have you discovered new approaches and perspectives toward your work? That's a great question. Wow, that's like $1 million question. So yes, I did. In fact, I started developing, so I guess I'll address how I changed my work. So as a teacher and an instructor, I had many workshops that were canceled nationally. So all of a sudden I found my schedule completely cleared. Like I was going to be traveling once a month from March until August, and then all that got canceled in a day. And so I had all this time to be able to develop this idea that I had, which would be developed working dimensionally. And I actually happen to have a sculpture right here, which I'll just show you. So I started working with aluminum venting, and with the idea that these would be sort of organic, not quite a flower, not quite a plant or a leaf, but just somewhere in between. So they're almost like biomorphic forms. And I've really started teaching online with Zoom as a workshop format, and teaching just live. I tend to like to teach live and just have people kind of, I'm demonstrating like I would in my studio normally. And that was really cool because I had 50 people from all over the world watching my demonstration, and that way it was really inspiring to be able to have, the world got very small in one afternoon because of COVID. So I feel like there's been some really good things from it, you know, obviously just kind of pausing and just slowing down and just really having some time to focus on that. So that was one way, and teaching was another way because I love people. Like that's maybe the reason I even make art is because I'm able to connect with people. And so not being able to teach in person was really a hard reality to face, and also thinking, when will I ever be able to teach again in person? And so kind of reconciling all those things. But again, you know, we're all used to talking on these little screens now. I think it's much better than at first. So I'm doing that, and then just really so putting my work on social media way more than I used to. I would sort of just do maybe a post a week, but now I'm kind of, you know, I'm trying to broaden my audience and get more followers, especially on like Instagram, where you know, I'm hoping that people would find me that are looking for artwork or something like that. So a lot of hashtag research, you know, different things like that, just using it as a marketing tool. Whereas before I would just have networks of people that I would contact, and I'd call up people in my city, and we'd get together and they'd see my art in my studio. So no more, that's not really happening anymore. I'm sending a lot of images just via email, and just hoping that we kind of keep the connection going and that people are still working on projects, because I work a lot with art consultants and some galleries, but mostly art consultants, and they're placing work in corporate settings. But now nobody's going to work, not very many people, and so I don't know how much art is being sold in those kinds of settings. So it's just, yeah, it's been a lot, and I kind of tried to hit the bricks running, as I called it, because I felt that we were all just hungry for connecting, and so I just really wanted to kind of get into it right away and just see how it went. So I think I've settled down on now a little bit, but it was really fun. So that was a great question, Angie. Did I answer your question thoroughly? So, and you reached out to me, that really happened. Angie reached out to me and said she'd been looking at my work for a while, and you just decided, like, you're home. Why not why not get some paintings, right? I mean, that's kind of part of what happened. So I had a few people reach out to me like that too, to be supportive during this time as well. So that's been really nice.
Yeah, I'm glad Angie asked that question. I was going to ask something similar. And I mean, we're also dealing with more visible effects of, climate change, just, with the fires on the West Coast. And since your work is about nature, and, and the bees are obviously affected by climate change too. Just similar question, has that affected your approach over recent months?
As far as
yeah, I mean, there's just more awareness, more conversation about climate change right now than really ever before. So
yes, and I really so the University of Minnesota is here, and it's just an amazing resource. So I've visited they have a bee research center there, as well as at the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum in Chanhassen. So I've had some recent conversations about that too, and I know California is really struggling, obviously, with their population, because there's a lot of things that come from there, like almonds and fruits and everything like that. So I am a little worried about it, honestly. I'm not sure that we even know the impact of what that's going to be like next year in terms of produce and things like that we really rely on because of pollinators. So so I have kind of had some conversations, and they're definitely saying that will be something to look at. And then I did also tour the conservatory at the U of M. They have a whole plant research area, and it's from the Southern Hemisphere that they are researching plants, because of course in the Northern Hemisphere we kind of have the same things all the way across the continents. But the idea that Pangea was there and got separated, and so just kind of some plants are actually going extinct because pollinators are going extinct. So that's even another ripple effect that besides fruits and vegetables, but actually real plants, like whole families of plants, are going extinct because of that. So there's like some kind of moth, and so they are putting the plants together now and locating where these plants are, and then sort of pollinating them artificially just to keep that plant strain going. So it's definitely kind of gives me the chills, actually, because I think it really should be talked about more in the news than it is. And I'm not sure, exactly what we can do, except just do a few things in our yards to help support the pollinators, and just educate yourself about that too. And obviously there's some political things about that too that, you could get knowledgeable about, and then contact your legislators too. Like no pesticides, for instance, things like that.
mm-hmm.
So any other questions? So one really nice thing to come from this Hinge residency is I have contacted the Ottertail Historical Society, and I do believe that based on the photographs I'm taking, I might have an exhibition there next summer. And I'm also meeting the Cadets Gallery on Monday, and we're going to talk about my possibility for having a show next summer. So that's always really fun and amazing to connect with the community of where I'm taking the work, and I'm hoping by then we can have an exhibition and a socially distanced reception, and just be able to connect with everyone in Fergus Falls. together. So, but the show is going to go on, but I'm not sure what form that will take. If that's, you know, virtual exhibition or if we'll be able to gather. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and both of those venues have been really, really great about adapting to this. So they're starting to do more socially distant events or online things. So by then they'll have figured out a lot of options for you, I'm sure.
Yes.
I love that the community will be able to come and see the pieces that you created during this time and kind of recognize their surroundings in your art and generate some good conversations. So I'm glad that's going to work out.
Yes, me too. I'm really excited. So I'm going to meet everyone on purpose, in person this weekend. So that'll on purpose too.
Well, it'd be fun to get the Prairie kids to come on a specific field trip to your exhibit and get to meet you and learn. They do a little bit of art, but I would love to see them do more and have more artist guests. Not that I'm in charge there, but
Great. Oh, I love doing programming where I am, so that would be a possibility for me to reach out to them, and maybe I could just do a little demonstration for them or a workshop or something like that. So we could talk about that for sure.
Yeah, we should talk about that. That'd be cool. Are there other questions or comments? I meant to put a link to the Prairie Wetlands in the chat too, so people could see.
Oh yeah, I would like to. I've looked at it quite a bit actually, but it's just very exciting to check it out and see it for myself this weekend. So
there, now others can see where you'll be going. They don't have the best website.
Okay.
But all right. Well, oh, there's a question from Angie. What's the most challenging medium to work in and why?
I would say as a painter, oil paint, because I like the editing possibility. And I did, when I went to art school, I was working with oil paint a lot. And I love paint in general. So I just really gave it a, really explored that medium. But because I wanted to cover up different areas and it just keeps mixing, I would just have these like little bumps on my painting because the paint would get thicker and thicker and thicker instead of just letting it dry and then, covering it up later. I just would, in that moment, I just had to keep covering it up. So I would have these little lumps on my paintings. And so, and watercolor too, I think, because I'm very process oriented. So I just like it to unfold and just kind of react to the last thing. So I call it stepping stones while I'm working. So it's almost like I make a mark, react to that, make a mark. And so, after you've made 30 marks or painted 30 different things, you've got a painting, and it's not something that you could let, you wouldn't have like this plan or something that you'd really be able to, in my head, say, oh, I know I'm going exactly, because things happen that that I don't expect. So so I like mediums that are more what I can cover up. Like that editing process, so like acrylic paint, if I paint something and I want to change it, the paint dries really fast, so I can do that. And sculpture right now, I'm just learning sculpture, so I'm finding it really exciting and very challenging at the same time. So if I had a full-on metal studio, that would be very freeing, but I'm kind of working in a painting studio, so I'll just be doing as much as I can with that. I'm doing some aluminum sculpture, so. But I think as a painter, I think I can adapt those painting methods, but just as a preference, the medium just really has a voice in the work. And so from that standpoint, the oil paint, there's really nothing like the luscious oil of it. I love that so much about it. But I do find it challenging. So that's a great question too. It's kind of like, what do I think? I actually had to think a minute to think what I would answer about that one. I've kind of done a lot, and and so just depending on my mood, so to speak, I'll just work in different mediums between painting, printmaking, and sculpture. And photography. I'm going between those four all the time. So any other questions?
I had a question. I noticed on your photo and mixed media webpage, a number of those works have like the beehive design on, like, it almost looks like an impression. I'm here, like my brain is trying to figure out like, how is that done? Do you lay the bees, the hive shape, I'm sorry, the yeah, like yeah, like the honeycomb, do you like lay that on and then it melts into the piece?
No, that is so good. I actually appreciate you. So so that is a printmaking technique, and I'm always looking for things in the studio that I can you know, press onto. I mean, even not really, but here's paper towels. Like if anything has a texture that, you know, around the studio. So what I did was I took cardboard, you know, like it's like that thicker cardboard, and I peeled off that top layer. It's like a process, see? And then it kind of revealed this honeycomb patterning. And do you guys know what I'm talking about? Like maybe TVs are packaged with it, or just it's like more of a cushion. It's like an inch thick cushion, and it looks like a beehive. And so I actually
Oh, you're frozen, Jodi. I don't know if you can hear us. Oh,
that to paper, and then oh, did I lose you guys?
you're back. It's good now. You froze for a second.
Should I go back about so I basically inked, put paint on the cardboard, and then I use it like a stamp, and then I pressed that onto the paper, and then I made a screen print out of that. But I knew, because I had this pollinator idea behind the images that I made, that I liked those little subtle references. So it's really just a found object that replicated that honeycomb look, and so that's why I chose it to put it in the image. So basically I just sent a black and white photocopy to a company that makes screens for me, and they did a photo screen for me, and I was able then to screen print onto my encaustic paintings, which you might just go, wow, Jodi, why don't you just draw that instead? But then I could really repeat it very quickly. So I'm able to, you know, screen and just pick it up and keep going. And so when I'm working in series, I can use that as a background pattern. And I just like that repetition of the pattern especially. So good question, Dominic. I like that. So does that make sense, what I just described?
Yeah, that's very cool. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yes.
So Jodi, when you were making that pattern and screen printing it, what were you using? Regular screen printing ink, or were you using something special?
Good question. So with encaustic paint, it needs to have something absorbent with it, and there is a special gesso that is made. It's called encaustic gesso, and it's actually more traditionally like a rabbit skin glue, so it's very chalky. And you can modify this gesso that's made to work with encaustic paint. And I just put some drops of like printmaking ink, like it's basically a dye that's water soluble, and so is the gesso, but it tinted the gesso. And so then, since the gesso allows any surface to become ready for encaustic painting, it also sticks to encaustic paint. So I was able to use that gesso as an ink, basically. And so I can paint with that right onto encaustic with it as well. And it comes white, but I tinted some of the paint, like grays and blues and things like that I embedded in those paintings that Dominic referenced. So that's a great question. You can also use oil paint. So oil paint is also compatible with encaustic paint. So you could do a thin layer, you know, just screen print with the oil paint through the screen print as well. But then you would want to melt the wax to kind of take that ink, because it's oil, and it'll just sit on the surface until it oxidizes, so it, you know, can get smeared and things like that. So that's why I prefer the gesso, because it kind of dries very quickly, and then I can just incorporate it a lot faster. So, but those two I use as inks interchangeably for encaustic painting.
I'm seeing some other images on your website. It's on your Abstract and Modern Paintings, Minneapolis. The the artwork of nature inspired. And there's like leaves in the paintings, and it looks very much like it might be stamped. Is that right? Or is that similar to the screen printing technique you described?
That is, so again, I'm using a printmaking technique, but what I'm doing is I'm taking actual leaves and using them as a stencil. So if I'm using a brayer, so like a roller instead of a paintbrush, and I'll roll paint over the leaf, and it mostly will catch the veins and the lines of the leaf. And then I would use that leaf as a stamp, and I would actually stamp actual leaves onto my paintings. And I do that by, so in the fall I would collect leaves, and then if you put a thin layer of gel medium, like acrylic gel medium over your leaves, it kind of makes them more rigid and preserves them once you've pressed them. And I do that because in the wintertime, obviously I can't go outside and get a leaf. So I will sort of make a stockpile of leaves for myself to use if I want to during the winter. And I would do that, and then it really makes that leaf durable, and I could kind of reuse it over and over, printing the actual leaf or using it as a stencil to create like the outline, the negative space of the leaf. So I really do rely a lot on printmaking as my, like a way to generate imagery, and because I love repeating patterns especially. So, and something that I didn't make, like I love found objects, just like that cardboard or anything. I'll even take the bottom of a coffee cup and just repeat that circle on the bottom, putting paint on that. So really just using things around me as a tool. Instead of a paintbrush, I'll kind of use shaped paintbrushes, so to speak.
Great, thank you for sharing. I was kind of wondering because leaves can be so brittle, especially in the fall, so I was like, how is there not chunks of leaf stuck to the paint? So
yeah, the gel medium, but pressing them first is really important. And I would say not every leaf works very well. So maples, oaks work really well, ginkgo leaves. So the ones that have a little bit more firmness to them, vines don't really work unless you do them that day. So you can also work with the leaves fresh when you print them, but then it's more like a one-time use or a two-time use, but because they kind of get a little fragile and they won't hold up over time. But if you press them first and then seal them with the gel medium, just a very light coat, because you don't want to fill in the veins of the leaves or the lines. So then I just put them in a book. I leave them pressed, and then I can just sort of flip through there and just look for the leaf that I'm drawn to at the time, and it just preserves them really well. Like I have leaves that I've had for probably 15 years that they are still good. It's kind of crazy. And the more that you add that layer of acrylic paint on them, the firmer they get and the better, the sturdier they get. So it's almost like they become a plastic leaf, I think, over time, just because they have so much acrylic paint on them. But so you can kind of experiment with that. And I even would run some of those paintings through the press. So I was painting a lot for a while on acrylic panels, like plexiglass. And I would paint on the reverse side. And then when you'd look through the painting, you would be looking through the plexiglass. And so there'd be this like little optical, thickness through it. And I would just run that whole acrylic panel through my press and then press these like fresh leaves, especially on those paintings. And it just works really well to just like almost like a printmaking technique, like a template or a relief block. If you carved a relief block, I'm just using a leaf instead.
So Jodi, I'm curious, do you collaborate with other artists, and how does that work?
That is such a great question. I have collaborated a little bit. Boy, and that would be challenging, I would say, because it's hard to show up in a 50-50 kind of way and then not think you have the better idea than the other person. Or I would say, especially if you have two different mediums, like Ben and I have collaborated on some projects or just like idea generation. But if with another painter, I probably wouldn't be able to collaborate with them because they're gonna approach it just so differently. But if it's a different medium completely, then it's like we can kind of meet halfway, and it's like, okay, you did a photograph and I'm doing the painting part, and it would create like a dialogue. So so I definitely am interested in that because I like the idea of it very much, because I could see make me getting some discoveries or working in a way that I wouldn't normally work, or getting insight into another artist's mind and how they work, and maybe that would shed some light on how I work, but I do, as a hearing you say that right now, I think, oh, no way. it's just that balance of how do you make choices? Who starts? Like, do you react to what they did? And then, it's just all those questions come up. So I think you would want to have some parameters around that. Yeah. Maybe I would make, like half of the paintings and then we switch, you know what I mean? Like kind of just, you do some and then I do some and then we're done, maybe. But I know some artists have really done it and they've had some really amazing things. So
well, it'd be like double exposures then, wouldn't it? Like you got two artists doing that.
Yes.
That'd be cool.
Yes. Yeah, and it's just that, you know, question of like, when is it done and who gets to decide when it's done? And so that's like the challenging part. It's like a kind of a project design, and it's like, what's the goal and what, you know, what are you trying to accomplish? So, but I love the idea as a process idea. I think as an exercise, I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah. Well, I knew that I had to ask that question because I know you're always like looking at new ways of doing things and like, you know, getting new ideas. And so that's why I thought about, you know, collaborating and working with other artists is a great way to kind of like, you know, integrate your work with somebody else's and learn something new in the process.
Yes. Yes. And I actually am working on a sculpture that's going to be an outdoor sculpture. And so I'm going to make the design, but then somebody else is going to build it because I don't have a metal studio and I don't really have the experience to, you know, make it small, from small to large. It's going to be 7 by 10 feet. So I think that's going to be considered a collaboration because we are going to have to, you know, talk about materials, and then my design will sort of lead the project, but then I might have, you know, the materials are also going to come into play, and I don't have all that expertise with that. So stay tuned. Actually, I just realized I am in the middle of a collaboration as far as that goes. So, but I'll be doing the you know, the design generation, and he'll be kind of doing the fabricating part. But in a way, it's a collaboration because we'll have to make
Very
the whole
cool.
team together.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yes.
I was also curious about your collage work. I saw that some of it looked like books or newspaper, and some of it almost looks like maybe you paint something first and then cut that out to make it part of a larger piece. Can you speak a little bit about your collages?
Yes. Yes. So that's exactly right how I work with that. So so I kind of do, I consider it visual collage where I am like taking a leaf and stamping it into, you know, a different painting. But then I do a lot with collage with, are these the acrylic ones you're referring to, right? Or are they are the beeswax? Because I have.
Yep, I was looking at the acrylic ones.
Okay, okay. So, so when I would work with that, I would create a lot of texture. That was part of what I would do with those collages as well. But I would start with gel medium and just really just get in there and really, you know, press down the collage so it sticks really well. And then a kind of a combination of paint and collage together. And I would also make images that were printed and then use those too. So it's almost like a found object in the sense that I carved it, but I would sort of plop it into this, you know, this composition. So I'd have actual collage, more like a collage image that I made, and then actual paintings that would be. So I do a lot with the collage would actually be incorporated into the acrylic painting. So I don't do as much collage for collage sake. You know, it would be kind of an element of one of my paintings.
Gotcha.
Does
Very
that,
cool.
does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so that's, you're going back then. That's down down on my website. That's kind of like getting down in my my list of works. I haven't really, that's probably going back about 12 years, honestly.
Oh,
And
wow.
I left the work on my website, but I'm always wondering, like, is it so far removed now? Because you can see the progression that it's, that sometimes it is more representational and sometimes it's not. But I have changed mediums. So since I discovered encaustic painting, I slowly transitioned to a encaustic from acrylic. So I was working with acrylic for about 20 years. And then the last 10 years, I've been working with encaustic primarily. So.
Okay, yeah, I saw collage was used in your bio, so I wanted to ask you about that.
Yes, yes, and I do work with it. I mean, the photo collage that I work with, the, you know, the encaustic with photo collage, is those are printed on tissue, and of the flowers and the pollinators. So so when I use that, it's almost becomes it's really just the whole composition of the painting, and then I'm using the encaustic paint even underneath the tissue and over the top of the tissue, so that you get this translucency, and it's like the colors coming from underneath, and it's also, you know, painted on the top. So so yeah, so really now it's becoming, you know, my photograph that I take is really the composition that I'm sort of filling in with the paint. All right, any more questions?
I'm just hoping my toddler was banging on the piano, and I'm worried now that I think
No.
I was muted. I think I was muted. Okay.
You were muted. You were muted. Good job.
I just realized I'm not now. Okay. The last thing I just wanted to mention while I was waiting for the noise to die down here was that Fergus Falls also is a really big healthcare hub. So we have a cancer center and we have a hospital and several other types of facilities. So I'm hoping that when you do your show, we can help you invite some of the people that curate those spaces and purchase art and maybe get some of your pieces here.
Wow, that would be amazing. That would be so fun. Yes.
And they're really great about, because it's an arts community, they're really great about having art, really high quality art in their facilities. So
I know the Cancer Center recently made a gallery space specifically for art.
Oh, wow.
That they're interested
It's amazing.
in picking up more art, especially from local artists.
And what location is that? The hospital, you said, or the cancer research?
It's the Cancer Research Center. It's not connected to the hospital. It's in its own building.
Okay.
But it is the region, yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. Yeah, that's great to know. That's, I mean, they may be interested in the work just because it's from their area.
Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. This has been really fun to hear more about your process and what you're going to be working on this coming weekend and going forward. So I really enjoyed getting a chance to hear in more detail. I'm personally a musician and a writer, so visual arts is a little, abstract to me to hear, but I have a friend that does encaustic painting, so that's kind of the one visual art that I feel a little more attached to.
Okay, cool. That's really great.
Fun. Yeah.
When I like music, I would not ever play music, but I totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah, and thank you all for joining from all over the place and for your great questions. Hopefully, if you're ever in Fergus Falls, you'll let us know and come say hello to Springboard post-pandemic when we're back at our office and doing community stuff. So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I just can't believe how fast the hour went, but I really enjoyed it too. And thank you so much for hosting this, because it's really a nice idea for us to connect. And yeah, I look forward to seeing what I make. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
Definitely post updates.
You should. Yeah. Yeah. And we're here to root for you and support you however you need it. So, yeah.
Well, so far it's been amazing. So thank you, Dominic and Michelle.
All right. Well, feel free to chat a little more if you all want to.